Hey there and welcome. Today we're diving into the early signals your brain might be sending about dementia. We're talking about the really subtle clues, the ones that can show up years, maybe even decades, before you'd ever notice a problem with memory. Let's get right into it.
So, when you hear the word dementia, what's the first thing that comes to mind? For most of us, it's forgetting names or misplacing car keys, right? Well, it turns out that's a huge misconception. In fact, significant memory loss is often one of the last things to go.
And here's the crucial part. By the time memory problems are bad enough to get a diagnosis, a massive amount of damage has already been done to the brain. But here's the thing. The brain sends out warning flares long before it gets to that point. We just have to learn how to read them.
So in this explainer, we're going to uncover these hidden threats. These are the subtle, often ignored clues that your brain is basically calling for help. And we're going to break it all down into 3 key areas.
First up, let's talk about the physical signs. These are clues that actually show up in your body and your senses, often way before you'd notice any mental fog.
So the first sign, and this one might surprise you, is a change in your sense of smell. You know, if you start noticing that coffee doesn't have that rich aroma anymore, or you can't smell the rain, that's a critical early warning. And there's a reason for it. The part of your brain that processes smell is directly wired to the memory centers, and these are 2 of the very first areas that get hit by dementia.
And we're not just guessing here. The risk is significant. A really big study from the University of Chicago found that older adults who had trouble identifying common smells were more than twice as likely to develop dementia within 5 years. That's a powerful signal that's so easy to overlook.
Next up is sleep. And look, we're not talking about 1 or 2 rough nights. We're talking about a chronic, consistent pattern of bad sleep. You know, you have trouble falling asleep, you wake up all the time, you just never feel rested. A lot of people just chalk this up to stress, but it could be your brain telling you that its nightly maintenance system is starting to fail.
But why is sleep so incredibly important? Well, during deep sleep, your brain has this amazing cleanup crew called the glymphatic system. It gets in there and flushes out all these toxic proteins, like the amyloid plaques you hear about with Alzheimer's. When your sleep gets messed up, those toxins don't get cleared out. They build up, damage the brain, and that, in turn, creates a vicious cycle of even worse sleep.
Okay, here's a sign you can literally check for right now, your handwriting. Go find something you wrote a few years ago and compare it to how you write today. If you notice your handwriting has gotten a lot smaller, more cramped, more compressed, well, that condition is called micrographia, and it's a huge neurological red flag. It's a sign that the motor control centers in your brain are starting to degenerate.
And another one related to motor control is how you walk, specifically your arm swing. See, a natural arm swing is an automatic program that your brain runs without you thinking about it. When those programs start to break down, you might notice one arm isn't swinging as much, or maybe both arms are held kind of stiffly at your sides. It's often an early precursor to that shuffling walk we associate with advanced dementia.
Okay, so we've covered the physical clues. Now let's move on to our second category, the cognitive changes. We're going to explore those subtle shifts in how your mind actually works, the kind of things that go way beyond just being a little forgetful. Have you ever had this happen? You're in the middle of cooking dinner, someone starts talking to you, and poof, you totally lose track of what you were doing. That isn't just you being distracted. It's a classic sign that your brain's executive function is starting to decline. Think of your executive function as the CEO of your brain. It's run by your frontal lobes, and its job is to plan, organize, and juggle all the tasks you're working on. When that CEO starts to struggle, it's a sign that the prefrontal cortex is actually losing neurons and connections.
Now, this next one isn't about your eyesight getting worse. It's about how your brain interprets what your eyes see. You know, you start misjudging distances when you're parking the car, or you find yourself bumping into door frames more often. That means the visual processing centers in your brain are having a hard time making sense of the world around you.
What about this? You used to love those really twisty, complicated mystery shows, but now you just find yourself getting lost trying to follow the plot. That's another clue. It happens when the temporal lobes, the part of the brain responsible for handling complex stories, start to degenerate. Your brain just loses its ability to weave all those different pieces of information into one coherent narrative.
Think about a signature recipe that you've made 1,000 times, something you could do in your sleep. But now, all of a sudden, you have to consciously think through every single step. This is a sign that your procedural memory, the system that stores all your automatic skills, is breaking down. The fact that it's not automatic anymore, that's the red flag. All right, on to our third and final category, And this one might just be the most difficult to recognize in ourselves. We're talking about changes in personality and behavior that can signal really deep changes happening inside the brain.
This one is called apathy, and it's very different from depression. It's when you just lose interest in hobbies you used to love, or you can't be bothered to see friends anymore. This happens because the brain's dopamine-driven reward system starts to malfunction, and it literally robs you of the ability to feel motivated or engaged.
And maybe the most serious sign of all is a noticeable shift in personality. Family members might be the first to notice that you've become more irritable, more apathetic, or maybe less empathetic than you used to be. It is so important to understand this isn't a choice, it's happening because the frontal lobes, which basically control our personality, are being directly attacked by the disease.
And this quote from the source material just drives the point home. These changes aren't character flaws. It's not someone choosing to be a different person. It is a biological process where the very brain tissue that defines who they are is literally being lost.
Now, after hearing all of this, it is so easy to feel worried. I get it. But the most important takeaway here is actually a message of hope, because recognizing these signs early gives you an incredibly powerful window for action.
And this is that window. Many of these early signs can show up a full 10 to 20 years before a late-stage diagnosis would ever be made. That is a huge amount of time to intervene and to really support your brain's health.
Your brain has this incredible ability to heal and even regenerate, but you have to give it the right tools. Things like proper nutrition, good cardiovascular health, keeping your body moving, and keeping your mind engaged, these are the pillars of brain health that can make a profound difference, especially when you start early.
So look, these signs aren't a final verdict. They're a call to action. They're an invitation to start taking your brain health seriously. Your brain is sending the signals. The real question is, are you listening?